And there's also other benefits, there's tax benefits and things like that if you do it the right way. But we decided to not go through that process. We decided that the Best Bunch was going to just be a subsidiary of Camps Above, and so legally it's a non-profit, and all the profits are still within the organisation, and it's all above board. But we just saw that red tape and said it wasn't worth it. Whereas, and it's actually similar, there's Print 35 in Sydney, which is a printing business for people with that employs people with special needs. It's been around for probably 10 years now, more or less, and they are a subsidiary of Jewish Care. So that's definitely, that was easier. Whether it's more effective and whether we've got the right processes in place to employ 10 or 15 or 20 people, probably not. It's probably going to stay smaller because we decided to avoid that red tape. But what it will do is I think it'll actually give us more flexibility in terms of how we're running the business and the profitability side of things. The challenge that all of these guys told us was that it's really hard to provide an employment opportunity and to make money. Those two things often conflict. We said, we'll work it out. It is conflicting. It is conflicting. We're paying our 3 employees with special needs salaries, and then they're getting their wages, and they're doing jobs that at the moment, because it's an early stage, it's learning for them, are probably working at 50% productivity compared to someone else who was doing that job. But that doesn't matter because realistically, that's tens of dollars a day, and if we can't cover that in terms of the profit that we're making, then it's probably not worth running. We need to make money for this to be worthwhile. But because we already had the organisation, the non-profit set up with DGR and everything else, it made this a lot easier. Yeah. Another side note on that is that our community's got all of the resources, like lawyers and accountants and everyone in our networks, that this stuff should not be hard for our community if we decide that it's a priority. We just have to decide that it's a priority.
Do you have any problem with government bodies regarding, say, insurance for the people who work for the Best Bunch?
No, we don't. We've actually found that, at least in Victoria, there is very limited legislation on that governs and dictates the way that we are running our organisations, to the point that if I saw someone else like me starting up a non-profit doing similar things, I'd be worried about what checks and balances they had in place. We didn't have anyone checking up on us with how we did anything really. We were also fortunate, one approach that we decided to take was that all of our employees are supported by one employment agency, one that finds jobs for people with disabilities. And that sort of happened by chance, but there's one person from their company that comes in and asks us all the right questions. So things like supported wage allowances, which just rules around how much we can pay people with special needs. They've supported us through all of that, and they've gone through this process 1,000 times before. In terms of the legals for things like Camps Above, there is so little out there. There's so little that is telling us that we need to do anything in the right way. Whatever we get a working with children's check, that doesn't say anything about how responsible we are in supporting the people that we're working with. So something that we're figuring out at the moment is what role do we want to play in making sure that that legislation changes, because it's pretty poor at the moment. The other thing that I didn't mention for those that are interested is the NDIS is coming, so the National Disability Insurance Scheme, which is that if it works the way that they're saying it's going to work, half the people I talk to say it's absolutely not, they're going to run out of money, and the other half of people I talk to say that, yeah, it's going to change people's lives. If it works the way they're saying it's going to work, we should be able to get supports, we should be able to make a decent amount of money just from providing the employment opportunity. We should be able to log the hours that we spend training people with special needs to work with us. We should be able to log the hours that we have on camp where our participants do team building exercises. If we go on a ropes course and we can measure that that has had an impact on their social skills development, we should be able to get money from that. In the same way, without the families being out of pocket, theoretically. In the same way as you go to the doctor and you claim money back from Medicare, the families will go back and say these are the supports that were provided and claim that back. Or maybe get that from them. We don't know how it's going to work yet. Caulfield in Victoria, where we are based obviously, only gets it in April 2018 and they're rolling it out over the next couple of years across Australia.
We're the same on.
Nah. Yeah, it's going to be really interesting.
Yeah, disabilities, you tend to be socially isolated, so it's good that they have a thing like that, that business to sort of help them get out into the community and meet people.
Yeah.
And another thing too, the government's actually cutting back on funding to a lot of social groups, support groups at the moment in WA anyway.
Yeah. I think the government should be completely on top of all of the needs and challenges that people with disabilities face in the community, and they are so not. For example, respite isn't going to be funded under the NDIS. So families won't be able to say, we need a break for 2 days, so we need to get that funded. In terms of the social stuff, I believe that it should be much more natural. I'd love to hear your experience, but I believe that it should be much more fluid, and there should be a way for our volunteers to engage with our participants with special needs on an ongoing basis. If we've got a kid who goes to speech therapy twice a week, that kid is going to hate sitting in that office. So take him to a cafe, or take him to go bowling, and teach him those practical skills throughout those experiences, and be out in society, be out in the public, and that'll develop. And as those participants, those kids or whoever get older, do it in a more inclusive environment, go to a bar, do things that other people that same age do, and then it can be social groups that do it. You can have 3 or 4 people that have gone through similar challenges that are being supported by one person to go to that bar, or to the movies, or to bowling. I think that that's the role that we can play. There's a whole bunch of our volunteers that are still working with the kids that they will pair up with on camp. And the plan is for me that, in terms of my ideal vision for this, is that they're going to develop real friendships. They're not going to just be our participants aren't going to be put in a position where they're going to support groups or people with special needs. They're going to be put in a position where they're having consistent, regular social activities with anyone they want.
We're a much smaller community, as you're aware, and I don't know much about this. I've only heard from knowing you and what you do. But what do you think is that real turning point for a community that gets pretty much hammered from all different organisations? Everyone's trying to, look after their own organisations, busy lives, things like that. I don't think people in the community with special needs I personally don't really meet them. How do you get it all to happen? So how do we get another you? What would it take for our community to engage in that and to get something going?
I think it's an interesting question of numbers, because I don't know what the numbers are in this community. Statistically, there should still be tens and tens of people with special needs in the community, maybe even hundreds. One of our things that we worked really hard on was working with the special schools in the area, and what we did was we called the special school, said, "Do you have any Jewish kids for us?" And they said, "Oh, we don't really know, but here's a Jewish teacher." And we found all the Jewish special school teachers from the area, and they were able to put us in touch with all the kids that they knew. And there are all these families that feel the stigma, they can't be part of a community because they feel like they'd just be associated with the disability. They won't want their kids to hang out with. Their kids won't be get invited to parties or whatever else it is. And what we did was we just made sure that we could find those families that were excluded. Once we found those families, it was pretty easy to know that there was a need for what we were doing. And I think that's probably the first step. In terms of things like the Best Bunch, it's not dependent on the size of the Jewish community. Our florist who we've got on board isn't Jewish, and 2 of our 3 employees with special needs aren't Jewish. And as I said, probably a third to half of our customers aren't Jewish. I would suggest that that is something that can work anywhere in the entire world. With any small number of support to get it off the ground, I would say that that's something that can work anywhere. In terms of the camps, I think that we're the Australian Jewish community. I don't think we're Melbourne and Perth and Sydney. I think we're the Australian Jewish community, and we need to figure out a way to work together to provide these programs in any community that needs them. Camps Above is now in Sydney and in Melbourne. If there's a need for it in Perth or something similar in Perth, like, we should talk about that. We've had 2 campers from Perth come over in the last 2 years, probably another 3 or 4 that we've spoken to, and maybe that's the solution. Maybe it literally is just those 6 people coming on our camp every year, but it would depend on the interests of the families mostly, and getting to those families is the hardest problem, is the hardest part and the biggest problem, and there's just got to be a couple of people who are interested in making that happen.
I work as a disability support worker with deafblind people. And so I've asked if there's any if there are any people with disabilities who are Jewish in the places that I work with, because I'd love to introduce them around the place and get them involved, but a lot of the organisations I work for don't know. And likewise, I've contacted various Jewish community organisations as well, and often they either can't release that information or they just don't have that information, so it's really difficult.
So I think that what I would do to start, in terms of trying to source all of these people and trying to find where they are, is that I would make sure that it's being done in a fun and engaging way, like everything that we do, but that's really hard, especially with adults. What we did last year is we ran an Auslan course, and we just thought we had a participant coming on camp and that we needed to make sure that we could communicate with him. He was deaf, and we had 20 people sign up for that course. And all of a sudden we had all these people calling us and saying, oh, I want to do the course, or I know someone who's deaf, and this person's hearing impaired and I want to talk to them. And that fun way for us to learn a new language, and that's all it is, it's just a fun new language, we were able to connect a whole lot of different people from different sides of the community. The problem in Perth with that is probably the same as the problem in Perth overall. It's just a numbers game. But let's talk about Jews in Melbourne who are deaf, and let's see if there are no people.
Oh, it'd be great if they just moved here.
Yeah. Or if you move to Melbourne.
I love them.
What's the name? Yeah, learning Auslan is seriously fun. It's a really fun language. It's like learning a dance. It's like it is. It's amazing. Yeah, cool. Any other questions? Cool. Cool. Thanks, guys.
We need another year to get us going.
Nah, there are plenty of people. I think we need to work out how we can work together. Thanks, guys. This stuff, too much of it. Too much going on.
Would you ever get to the stage where the participants of this bunch would go to get paid?
They're getting paid.
Oh, they are?
Yeah, they're getting paid. Yeah. We're going to